you guys cast so well. So can you tell me a little bit about making an offer for Richard Dean Anderson?
Well, I got to give credit where credit is due. That was John Times also.
Really?
John Times had been the executive at Paramount when MacGyver was done and was friends with Rick. And John came to Brad and I and he said, and he thought we were going to hate the idea. I don't know why he thought that, but he came to Brad and I and he said, how would you feel about Richard Dean Anderson playing Jack? And both of us immediately said, yeah, will he do it? Can we afford him? And he said, well, let me see if I can set a meeting. And we sat down with Rick. And Rick's main thing was, he said, the way it was in the movie, the way Jack was in the movie was he was basically suicidal. And he was this dour, sad guy. He said, I don't want to play that for umpteen episodes. This guy's got to have a sense of humor.
It'd be miserable to watch otherwise.
Yeah. And we said, we're with you 100%. That's what we're planning. That's what we want to do. And we shook hands on it. And he was attached. And he was great. It was just, I don't mean just as an actor, but as a person, it was just fun to work with.
There is something about Jack where, really fundamentally what happened with Kurt Russell's character in the feature film is of no part to Richard Dean Anderson's portrayal of the character, except when you get him into a corner in certain scenes and you understand that through line of the child suicide is always going to be there. He's just,
we kept it in. We just didn't make him looking like he was going to kill himself all the time.
Right, exactly. And the humor, his outlook on life is kind of in a place now where it's, this has happened to me. This is always going to be a part of me, but how I make fun of life is how I get through it. And we as an audience buy that, because when any of the characters or anyone else around him gets close to what happened with him as a father, he snaps. And it's one of those amazing performances that, and in terms of like the breadth of an actor, that Rick can pull that off.
Yeah.
It was just a reward to watch. And then when he's funny, we're on the ground laughing our asses off.
Yeah. And then we did a big search for the rest of the cast in Canada and the US. And that took a while. That was harder. But
tell us about finding Amanda Carter. Samantha Carter.
Amanda, we had read, God, it felt like 1,000 women for the part. We had gotten auditions submitted from all over the world because we'd given up on finding somebody in Canada and the US. She was a really hard part to cast because Showtime wanted her to be an attractive woman.
Yeah, they wanted to sexify it a little bit. Based on what I've heard.
Yeah. But you also have to believe that she's an astrophysicist, that she's really smart. She's got to have that sense of humor we wanted, and she has to have comic timing. And she's got to have the physical presence to believe that she was trained as a soldier, right? Those four qualities together, and being a good actor, of course, is really hard to find. You can find any few of them, but the combination of all are really hard.
Yeah, you have to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as you have this, pretty spokesmodel playing a soldier who's an astrophysicist, it's not going to work. They've got to be a real actor, and they've got to have an intelligence to them. And then we got a tape of Amanda doing this comedy show that she was doing in Toronto.
Oh, man.
And we said, let's get this woman in. And she came in and read for us and completely nailed the part. Then we brought her in for a chemistry read with Rick. Because at the time, the thought was there would be will they or won't they romance.
Right. The Air Force isn't, I'm guessing,
the Air Force
extremely involved yet.
That. And right. And she was just great. She just, she was Amanda Carter. She was Samantha Carter.
You got it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a funny story about that name. I had named the lead female character in 2 shows before Stargate, Samantha, because Samantha was my favorite name. I always said I was going to name my first daughter Samantha, and did. My first daughter's name is Samantha.
I did not know that.
And then my second child was born, and my wife and I were trying to come up with a name, and we came up with Amanda without realizing what we were doing. And all of a sudden I said, oh, it can't be Amanda. I'm going to look like a weirdo here. Like I'm obsessed with Amanda Tapping or Samantha Carter. So we didn't name her Amanda. And it was really totally, didn't even, we weren't thinking of Amanda at that point, and it was beyond that. But anyway.
She is a huge director up in Canada now. And
I know. I've kept in touch with her. My Samantha is now in Canada trying to be an actor. And Amanda has been very sweet to her. So Amanda's been
that's
giving her advice and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and we've been trying to get Amanda on the show here, and it's just one of those where it's like, she's so busy, I can't feel bad because, like, we'll get her on eventually. All the more power to her. She's doing exactly what she wants to do. And what she's
she's such a great woman. She's just very, very smart woman.
She's wonderful. And what she did with Carter over, all these years was just extraordinary arc.
Well, I'll tell you, she would take, when we would give her all the science babble, she would take it and study it and look up what it actually meant. And, when it came out of her mouth, it sounded like she actually knew what it was.
She had to believe it as much as she could.
Yeah, which was just great. Yeah.
You have this performance in the feature film of a 25-year-old geek who is not all there, somewhere on the spectrum, but absolutely in touch with his humanity enough to bring Jack back from the brink and kind of restores Jack through the battle that they go through and the friendship that ensues. Finding a replacement for James Spader could not have been an easy task. And when I put in the feature film the next night after finishing Children of the Gods, because I want to see what this is all about, I thought it was the same actor for a little while. It was that specific. The not only the appearance, but the choices that Shanks made. Mm-hmm. Tell me about finding
which evolved as the show went on, but he started out at that point.
Correct.
And evolved. Yeah. It was interesting. We had several other actors that we were thinking we were going to go with for that part. And the problem I kept having, and I think Brad kept having too, was I just don't like this guy. I'm not sure I want to invite him into my home.
Daniel?
No, not Daniel, the actor.
Oh, I see.
The other actors. So we'd be looking at this actor who would nail the nerd and the science and all that, but you just didn't like the guy. You didn't want to invite him into your living room. He was more of a bad guy. We had several that were like that. And we kept saying, we've got to find somebody who pulls that off and is also just really likable. And then we saw film on Shanks before we met him, or before he read for us. And we were like, if he can do the nerd thing, because most of the parts he had done prior to that were the handsome,
right, exactly,
man type. And he came in and nailed it. So, it was interesting with all the parts is that as soon as we saw them, we knew they were it. It just took us a while to find them. Same thing happened with Chris.
Yeah, the Brad's old quote. All right, Teal'c, moving on. He was just there on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I don't know if Brad remembers this, but we had seen Chris on tape, but we'd never met him or seen him in person. And then we had screen tests in LA, in the theater at MGM, and we had them all come in and read with Rick. And Chris walked in the room, and Brad and I looked at him, saw, first of all, how big he was and how interesting looking he was, and because he's just this buff, really good looking, interesting looking kind of combination of ethnicities. And we looked at each other and said, please God, let this guy be able to act. Please God. him because we had not found anybody. We had looked at, we were at our wits' end. So Chris was, he and one other guy, and the other guy we didn't really like, were the only ones who came in to read for the screen test. And as soon as he opened his mouth, we were both like, okay, there he is. That's him. He can talk. He's a good actor. He is Teal'c.
He is.
Done, moving on.
And that voice is making him a lot of money now with T'Challa and with Kratos, God of War. So you guys picked well.
Yeah, he was a gift from God, because that character was hard to cast.
And it's one of those that I was so surprised at when in watching the pilot. You picked someone who is on the inside, who is like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm done with it, and takes up his sword, so to speak, and joins our cause. Was that the intent from the original draft of the pilot, to have someone on the inside who became a traitor? And
yeah, that was always our plan. One of the things that helped Brad and I a great deal with coming up with the pilot was we really studied the movie, and the movie had quite a following, and so we wanted to be true to it as best as we could. And so what we did was we looked at the movie and we looked at all the holes in the movie, and I don't mean holes in a negative way. I mean things that they would have answered if they had gone on, right? Things that were left open. And said, so explain, how do we explain that? Who are these guards that work for Ra with the helmets, the clothes, and, what is Ra? He looks like a human, but his eyes glow. And, it was never really explained what he was. And so we came up with the whole Jaffa and gold thing. And then we said, well, if this is the case, if we have these Jaffa, one of them has to be one of our regular characters. So how do we get there? And that's how we got there.
Yeah, he's almost Stargate's Spock equivalent. It's good to have an alien or a presence among the group that can shine a mirror back on us and ask those questions, have us ask those questions, because it's a sci-fi show. It's about the deeper meaning of humanity. At the end of the day, it's about good old-fashioned entertainment. But if you can ask yourself questions of humanity, you're doing something more. You're bringing the audience some higher level entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. It's the best science fiction asks questions.
Absolutely.
Or makes the audience ask questions.
Thanks for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. You can find the full live stream shows on our YouTube channel, or visit dialthegate.com for the complete schedule. See you on the other side.